Hey there, toy collector friends and Star Wars fans alike, particularly fans of Return of the Jedi. Here we are looking at another 40th anniversary figure release from Hasbro, disguised as Kenner. It's one of the Black Series editions, so it's an oversized version, and this was one of my favourite figures back from the original 1970s and 80s figure range. It is, of course, a strong, silent, deadly and mysterious bounty hunter, Boba Fett. Beautifully realised here on the classic packaging. It is, of course, significantly larger as a figure than the old classic figures. Beautiful artwork detailing the whole name tag. We do have, I'm going to go a bit hands-free here for a second, we do have that wonderful 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi logo up here, and the very familiar railway track header for Return of the Jedi. But of course, that is not the main attraction. The main attraction is the wonderful Boba Fett figure itself. Now, there was a lot of shenanigans around the original release of a Boba Fett figure with the rocket pack that fired, it didn't fire, and blah blah blah. I'm not going to go into that. There's some fantastic YouTube channelists and YouTubers who talk very knowledgeably and far more eloquently than I can about the history of Star Wars action figures and about the history of the Boba Fett action figure. This is, for me, one of the ones that I'm so glad I was in a position to pick up. We can see here the range of commemorative figures. At this point, there are some more coming, and I do have some on pre-order as a result of Star Wars Celebration earlier in the year. But you have a sight of basically what the packaging looks like. I'm going to do something that I don't normally do. I'm going to take him off the card. I'm in a very fortunate position when I was able to get hold of this. I did the thing where I picked up two versions of it. So me and my craft knife are going to take him out. Now, I have been asked before, and indeed have watched other videos myself, about how best to excuse me, my nerves getting the best of me, how to decard a figure like this, because obviously the way that the bubble is stuck here, just like in old times, you either need to cut through here so it just literally lifts off, leaving this intact, or you need to go under there and just slice it through so that you've got something to reattach, should you ever wish to reattach it, to go back and display it. Now, I don't know whether I'm going to ever reattach it or not, but I certainly don't want to cause any significant damage to this, not least because I may well want to put the figure back inside at some point. So for me, this is almost experimental about how do you get a cut, because again, something else, and I think I've mentioned this in another video, that I love with the black figure ranges is the majority of them come in a box where you can actually open the box and take the figure out. When you go back to these sort of classic look figures, that isn't an option. One way or another, you are destroying the packaging, and it may be a destruction of packaging that you can later fix to an extent, but you're never going to have fixed it to the extent of it being mint on card. Whereas when you put something back in a box that you can then reseal, it will at least always look like it's sealed. So even if it's not mint in box, it will not look as damaged as something like this is going to look. So my view, is to sort of slip the knife under here, and if anyone is trying this at home, please and you're not an adult collector, please make sure you have grown-up support or adult support in anything involving a knife, because they can slip, you can have all sorts of unfortunate accidents, and I do not want that happening. For me, this looks a lot like the best way to do it is to take this blade under the plastic and sever it along there. So I'm going to take a few seconds break, because I'm not going to show this on the video. but I will report back to, just in case it is horrendously difficult or causes any specific problems. Then we can look at the figure, the accessories, and generally how wonderfully fun it is. Okay, so bear with me and don't trip into that Sarlacc pit. Okay, so that was a little more hair-raising than I would have liked it to be, but I've managed to do it, and to be fair, the card and bubble are not too badly damaged. I'm quite satisfied with that. Let's look first of all at this tray. So one of these guns have just launched themselves out, so he's got this rifle. There's another rifle here. We have a gigantic flame effect here, which is from his flamethrower, I guess, and we have the backpack rocket launcher, rocket pack, multi-purpose, as we've seen in other iterations of Boba Fett, like in The Mandalorian. So very nice array there. Well, let me see if I can just slip that back in for sake of argument. Please just fit kind of gently. And here we have the main attraction, which is the figure that I managed to pull out. 2 blast effects here, and what we can also see is this grappling hook with with actual cord, string cord here. So it'll be fascinating to see how well that works and stores on this figure, because I've got visions of that being a droopy nightmare, but we shall investigate. So bear with me 2 seconds and I'll get him out of these. Okay, so I've brought to bear one of these sort of little figure stands that I don't use very often on this channel, but I think it kind of worked quite nicely here. So you can see I've sort of equipped him up with one of the blast effects, which literally pegs onto the fire flamethrower on his arm, and I've also incorporated these blast effects here into, and hopefully you can see those okay, into the, as I knock over the thing at the back, into his rocket pack, so we can see how the blast effects that came with it fit into there. And actually with his articulation it does work really well. Oh, as he just flops for me especially. He's quite a heavy figure, so that there is an element of having to tilt it to get it just right to really optimize some of this. And there's quite a nice bit of posability in other aspects of the figure, and I did like, I'll take him off this now just so we can have a closer look. But one thing that I did like was that this section on the helmet, the viewfinder, does actually come down. Although it doesn't come down, oh, it does. It does. I'm always careful of tolerances because they worry me. But it comes down to his visor, so that's okay. That works quite nicely, and you can position it back up again. Just so you can see this bit, it literally just pegs in there. So that's very easily managed. He does come with, I'm going to try and stand him up now. Let's see if he'll actually stand up nicely for me. He did a moment ago, but whether he'll still carry on doing that, we shall see. If he doesn't, I'll try and pop him, so at least for the time being he's got some additional support in the shape of his form, his packaging. He does come, as you've already seen, with these 2 rifles. They are ostensibly the exact same rifle. There is some minor paint deco that makes them separate. This one's got some, as you can probably see, some gold decorating around the base of the barrel there, and on the sights, the viewfinder, whereas this one is decked out pretty much in almost a copper wash across there. I haven't put them in his hands yet. I'll try that momentarily. As suspected, this was an irritation and fell off while I was trying to put on the backpack. This plastic part here clasps onto his arm, and then this freely moves forwards or backwards. It is quite front heavy for obvious reasons with this little grappling hook, although it's quite a well done grappling hook. But yeah, so as an accessory it's a nice idea. Really annoying because if you clip it onto him here, it doesn't really have anywhere to go, so it ultimately ends up droopy and dangly. These just peg in as you might expect them to, very easily removed, and of course equally very easily lost. There's a little bit of directionability that I hadn't picked up on previously in these, so you can angle them outwards, which gives you, especially if you're going to do some posing of the figure, it gives you a few more options, which is really, really nice. And the backpack, of course, is removable, and so too is the missile, but it doesn't have a firing feature, which is probably for the best. So just to be really clear, this feels extremely fragile at the base of the rocket pack, very fragile indeed. So be careful there. We've got his cape here, which is plastic. It's well, it's almost rubber. I'd say it's a rubbery plastic, but it does mean it could get pulled off, and then you'd have trouble getting that back on again. So again, fragile piece. Please be careful. Be warned. His belt with all of these detailed pouches on there is. I don't think it separates, so it looks like it's a single piece all the way around, but it's quite loose. Part of that is to give you some of the articulation access in the waist, and that falls off. So there's a lot of near misses in here. We've got the braids here, which I think are Wookiee braids. If I remember right, I could be wrong. They're fixed again on the shoulders, but dangle quite a bit. There's some movement in that, you get, you know, some good articulation, but ultimately there's an awful lot of if only when you start looking at the accessories. They're very easy to lose. They don't necessarily stay on particularly well. Let's try him with one of his rifles. He's got you know, it's not. Yeah, I'm not one to give up easily, but if it takes this long to try and get him to hold a gun, I'm not convinced he's going to hold it. It might be one of those where he can. Yeah, I don't like it. I'm not going to waste time trying to get them in. I don't think they're going to go. And there's no storage for them. There's no holsters or anything like that. So I will try and maybe do some stuff for the photos at the end, but if I can't, then I won't. As a core figure, I think he's really good. Let's get that out of the way. I love the design. I love the detailing that we have across this figure. I think it's really, really good. I love the posability overall of the figure. There's some nice elements to that. I love that we can get him on a high angle with the stand. The stand doesn't come with the figure, obviously. That's just one of my figure stands. But yeah, I think my problem, my disappointment stems, if it stems from anywhere. Let me just put something on there for him to stand on, so we keep as much of him in shot as we can. But I think my disappointment comes from the inability of, I mean, again, it's a very nice, undeniably nice accessory for the backpack. And the fact that these can be adjusted is also very nice. I did initially think that this might sort of peg in here to give a little bit of additional thrust. It doesn't, and there's no way to cheat it either, so that's not going to happen. But yeah, everything feels a little bit like it's almost right, but it doesn't quite hold in well enough, you know. And that for me is a bit of a nuisance, because I would really like, I'd like this to have had some functionality. It doesn't. I'd like this to stay on when you're manipulating and moving the figure. It doesn't. I get that the flame effects don't necessarily stay in, because you want them to be easily removable. I think it's good that you can sort of maneuver it a bit, but by the same token, they're a little bit, you know, they then get in the way when you're trying to pose the figure. So it's a nice thing, but it causes problems. There's no compatibility with the rifles. Not that there has to be, but it would have been nice if we're only getting those blast effects. It would be nice if they could have been used in conjunction with his rifles at least. But it's no biggie that it doesn't, because again, the figure is the main attraction here, not the accessories. But given this is a Black Series 40th anniversary release, from some of the quality I've seen in other Black Series figures, I think it's a bit of a shame. And I feel dreadful saying it, but I feel a little bit let down by the overall quality of the figure. Do I love the Boba Fett core figure? Absolutely I do. I think it's fantastic. And I'm super glad that I've picked him up. And I'm super glad that I've opened him and handled him. Do I think that there's a missed opportunity with some of these accessories? I'm afraid I do. Yeah, I think there's a huge missed opportunity with all of them. So I think from my point of view, that's the biggest shame of all, is that there's not really enough consideration gone into the use of these to make it really, really viable. I'll play about with it again when I'm doing some photos and toy photography, possibly for the end of this shoot. But as it stands at the moment, I am a little disappointed overall. That said, I can park it because I did want to have Boba Fett back in my collection. I haven't had a Boba Fett figure since I had the original, which went goodness knows where, goodness knows when. So I'm super chuffed to have one back. So on that alone, I'm happy. I just would have been happier if the accessories that came with him were as functional as I really genuinely believe they could have been. So I just see it as a little bit of a missed opportunity for this figure, which is, as we can see, a really, really good figure. I just feel it's just missing that edge that those accessories, with a little bit of love and tenderness and care, could really have provided him with, if that makes sense, and I hope it does. So anyway, have you collected or picked up Return of the Jedi Black Series 40th anniversary Boba Fett? And have you had more success with those accessories than I have? I may be missing a trick or doing something wrong. If that is the case, let me know in the comments below, and I'll be really, really grateful. Otherwise, all I can say is you've been a fantastic audience. Thanks for sticking with me for the last 13, 14 or so minutes. I've been the Time Travelling Toy Collector. This has been the Black Series Return of the Jedi 40th Anniversary Boba Fett figure from Hasbro, pretending to be Kenner. And I very much look forward to seeing you in a future video. Take care. Bye for now. And remember that the thing of beauty really is a toy forever. Bye-bye for now.